Hello, I am Marco Radо, and I'm going to teach a webinar for Russian students about what I think is a very, very interesting topic. This topic will be alchemy. And this webinar will be from the 11th to the 13th of February, and the name of this webinar is Inner Alchemy. So, what is alchemy? Alchemy is a sacred science, and it has been practiced for thousands of years. Somebody will argue it's old as civilization. The most important forms of alchemy are the Arabic, the Egyptian, and the Sumerian. The European, especially the Greek one, or the one used during the Middle Ages. The Indian, and the Chinese. This webinar will be a blending of concepts of the European alchemy and the Chinese alchemy. Alchemy is a philosophical, spiritual system composed by what now we call chemistry, physics, astrology, metallurgy, medicine, and psychoanalysis. So we can say that the root of a lot of different scientific aspects of today has its origin in the ancient concepts of alchemy. And one of the last great alchemists was Carl Gustav Jung, that have applied the basic principles of alchemy to psychoanalysis. And we will see that we will use inner alchemy as a way of making transformations. Alchemy is the science of transformation. And we will work on how to transform blockages or emotional difficulties or even physical difficulties into positive aspects. In alchemy, there's a lot of numerology and symbology, and one of the basic is the two opposing forces. These two forces are represented by the sun and the moon, or by sulfur and mercury. And one of the typical aspects of alchemy is that it's an absolutely symbolic science. So instead of books with text, we have a lot of images that are symbolic images. And this duality of the two opposing forces are often depicted with the red king or the white queen. These two energies describes the opposite, the male and the female, the light and the darkness, the active and passive, external and internal, and all this corresponds to what the Chinese describe as yang and yin. A very typical theory of alchemy, it's solvet et coagula. That means to separate the pure from the impure. So it's how to transform what is raw into what is refined. The famous transformation from a raw metal into gold. Okay? So it's a way to extract subtle energy, good energy from gross energy. This is a typical symbol of the two opposing energies, the sun and the moon. And this is exactly the symbol of modern medicine. So very often, or in modern medicine, they use this symbol, but probably they don't know exactly what is the meaning of this. So the two snakes represents those two different energies. And this image or this concept corresponds perfectly to the yin and yang. So we can start from the concepts of European Middle Age alchemy to apply to the meridians in the Chinese medicine. Another important aspect is called the tria prima, that is the three basic substances. These basic substances are sulfur, salt, and mercury. And there are many different symbols that can represent these three substances. And these three substances represents the body, the spirit, and the soul. So the three primary essences corresponds perfectly to the Chinese concept of the three treasure, where salt represents a quality of energy called Jing, sulfur represents the quality of energy called Qi, and mercury represents Shen. The three substances, the three energies corresponds perfectly to the unconsciousness, the subconsciousness, and the consciousness. So one of the main goal of alchemy and the goal of this workshop, it will be to transform subconsciousness into unconsciousness into subconsciousness, and subconsciousness into consciousness, and consciousness into awareness. Another very important aspect are the four elements. In Chinese medicine, we used to talk about the 5 elements, but in ancient Greek, in the Middle Ages, and in India, in alchemy, they talk about the 4 elements, and we will learn a lot about those 4 elements. And we will study how the 3 basic substances, salt, mercury, and sulfur, are related with the 4 elements. A very, very important aspect will be what are called the 3 dantian, that are the Chinese equivalent of the 7 chakras. In Chinese medicine, they don't talk directly about the chakras, they talk about the 3 dantian. So the meaning of the 7 chakras corresponds perfectly to the 3 dantian, and the 3 dantian corresponds perfectly to the 3 substances, sulfur, mercury, and salt. The 3 dantian has specific acupuncture points, and these points corresponds to specific endocrine glands. As the chakra system is tightly related to the endocrine glands, so also the 3 dantian is related to the endocrine glands. So we will have specific acupuncture points, one for each gland. So we will go deep into endocrinology, and we will use this energetic aspect to balance the hormonal system. So in this class, there will be many informations. So in this webinar, you will learn how to balance the 4 elements, how to balance the 3 dantian. What are the dantian? We will go into all this energetic system that is not that known. We will balance the unconsciousness, the subconsciousness, and the consciousness, and especially the transformation, how to transform the unconscious into the subconscious, and how to transform the subconscious into conscious, and how to transform consciousness into awareness. We will balance the 10 endocrine glands related to the Taoistic microorbit. That is a typical concept used in Chi-kung. And we will use also an exercises of Chi-kung to work on the endocrine system. And we will spend a lot of time talking about the pineal gland and its relationship with consciousness, or all the energetic aspects of the pineal gland. We will talk about the immune aspect of the pineal gland. The pineal gland is a wonderful gland, and also about this gland, often there is not so much information. And we will use as a balancing tool the Platonic solids, the 5 Platonic solids. I will talk about this, the relation between the Platonic solids and the 4 elements, the 3 dantian, and so on. This will be a 3 days long webinar, but it will be a very, very intense webinar, a lot of information. So I hope that this will be very interesting for you. So I invite you to this webinar. Bye-bye.